Good morning or afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the NACE Maximo Moments. We're going to be doing a series of webinars here for you guys. I was going to let you know you can feel free to chime in if you have any questions or chat. Jalen will be monitoring the chat so she can ask any questions that you guys have. So to get started, my name is Megan Matthews. I'm the supervisor of the NACE EAM team. We do Maximo, been doing it for many years. And we just started migrating all of our sites over to Mass. So as part of this migration to Mass, we're trying to give everyone a bit of an idea of what features are available in Mass. And today we're focused on Maximo Mobile. So if you looked at the invite there, some other training that we're doing focused on other aspects of it, but today we're primarily focused on the mobile application. So essentially what we're going to be looking at today is what is Maximo Mobile and how can we use it at our sites? All right, so Maximo Mobile is a they call it a next generation user experience. So there's one application for all of the different sub applications inside. It's available on the Apple Store and the Google Play Store. You can download it to your phone or your tablet. The demonstration we're doing today is going to be on my tablet, so I will show it on that. And I will let you know for the sites that have started using this application, most of them are using the Samsung Galaxy tablets. You could use any other. I've used it on a Kindle before. We've used it on any other like iTunes or iPads, that sort of thing. But you do need to have one that has a little bit more memory than just your basic version. So you probably want the next version up from just your base. It does have intelligent workflows inside. It follows the blue button for you to process everything. It is configurable, so we can make the screen's a little bit different if it's desired. We can make the lookup slightly different if that's desirable. And it is a connected and disconnected solution, so you can take it offline, do what you need to do, come back and bring your tablet back online. And the data quality is higher because the updates happen in real time. So as soon as you get back online, you can load that information in and it updates Maximo for everybody. So that's just a general overview of the application. The applications inside of mobile, so there's approvals. Approvals allow you to approve, assign, and monitor work. And usually this is available for your managers. Assets allows you to look at the details of your assets and change some small details. And again, this is usually managers. We usually allow technicians to see assets if that's desirable. There's inspection sheets, so you can complete the inspections, record the results. You can do unscheduled inspections. You can't develop or design inspections in the mobile application. That has to be done outside. There's inventory counting, so this allows you to use Count Books, which is a new application with Mass. And if you're here for our next session next month, we're going to be talking more extensively about inventory, but I will briefly go over this so you guys can see what it looks like and decide whether or not that's something you're interested in. But the Count Books allows you to do counts, reconciliations, and all of that from your tablet or phone. It allows you to open a service request. You can do receiving of inventory items and shipments. It doesn't allow you to receive services, but you can receive materials and inventory items. And then allows you to do issues and transfers from the application itself. There are some features that are available, but we don't have them put on. One of those is digital twins. You can set up a digital twin in Maximo, and that can be translated to the mobile feature. We don't have any sites currently that are using that capability, but that could be an option for you. Again, calibration, we don't have any sites that are currently using calibration, but you can do calibration inside of Maximo. And then by using the mobile app, you can enter in those as found and as left measurements. And then you set up those tolerances inside of Maximo, and you can see whether or not your calibration is within the tolerance. There's a map feature. So for some of our sites that are more dispersed, or some of the solar or wind sites, there is a map feature where you can pinpoint locations and use Google Maps to travel to the next location, or to see exactly where you are on the map. Materials and tools gives you a checklist of materials that you need to complete your work. So you can open that up at the beginning of the day, grab your materials, and then go. And then my schedule is for technicians, so they can view detailed information about work and complete work orders, add in logs, put in their time, all that sort of information. So that's essentially what it has. That's what we're going to be going over and reviewing. But first I wanted to talk a little bit about the technical specifications and the cost for mobile. So if you have mass entitlements, or you have licenses for mass, it is included for all users in the mobile application. So if they are self-service users and they're just using service requests, access to the online and offline capabilities of mobile are free for those individuals, just like they're free to get into Maximo. If you have someone who's editing work orders, just like in Maximo, you would have a limited license now with a mass entitlements, you would use the limited license in your mobile application. So there's no additional cost for using the mobile, but if there's someone who's not currently using Maximo, you don't have a license, and you want them to start using the mobile application, you need to make sure that you have some accommodation for them in the licensing structure that you have. With Mass, we still have the concurrent licenses like we did before. There's a concurrent license for limited users. There's a concurrent license for authorized users. So we can accommodate a lot of times everybody who needs to get into mobile with those concurrent licenses. Downloads for these are available in the App Store or Google Play Store. Again, you can use phones or tablets, and we don't recommend the light version. And sometimes there's some setup that's required for usage at your site. We'll talk about some of those things on our call. If you reach out to cmms@nace.com, we can help you out with those configurations, or you can reach out to whoever your current provider is for those sorts of questions. All right, so now that we've done that, let's talk about navigating. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to want to download the application. So when you go to your app store, there are going to be a number of applications that are available. There's Maximo Mobile with the white background, and there's Maximo Mobile with a black background. The black background is the Maximo Mobile application for version 7.6 and previous, and that version required you to have a license for Maximo Anywhere, I believe it was. With the new white background, that's the one for Mass, Maximo 8 and above, and that is coming included as part of the package, so there's no cost for that. So you want to make sure you download the white version. If you download the one with the black background, you'll get an error saying it's not compatible. The URL to log in, so when you log into the system, the URL you use is very similar to what you use in Maximo. So if you currently go to something that looks like this, which is usually what we have for all of our sites, whoops, you're going to notice you're going to change out the word home for whatever manages. So whatever URL you use currently to get in, just swap out manage for home, and that should get you into the mobile application. I know for our sites, we actually have a screen with a QR code that you can scan to get into that for your site, that we're deploying out currently to all of our sites. But if you, when in doubt, add home, you should be able to get into what you need to get into. So when you get into Maximo, you're going to click the URL for your site, enter your username and password. So there is the ability to set up multiple profiles on the tablet so that you can have multiple people using a single tablet. One thing we found out is it's not easy to change the username and password in the application itself. So if you want to use this for multiple users, then I would just enable multiple users on the tablet and then let them sign in to the tablet accordingly. You can enable biometrics or don't enable, up to you whether you prefer it or not, but it will ask you about that. So you'll want to set that up. And then you'll notice there's little blue buttons to navigate through. And the last section here, so there's a cloud icon, there's a bell icon, and then this grid icon. So the cloud is to update data and load settings. Bell is notifications and reminders, and the grid takes you back to the main screen. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and show you guys Maximo Mobile here. And this is on my tablet. And you'll see I'm already in an application here. So if I go back to the main screen, so down here on the left, this tells me where I'm at. So I'm in the NACE Maximo instance and I'm on GRP test. On the right-hand side, you're going to see that cloud one that I mentioned. There's the bell one for notifications, and then this is the grid. So the grid takes you back to the main screen, or it takes you back to the application you were in, and I was just in the inspection sheets. If I click on this little cloud button here, that takes me to the cloud download information. And this is where you can see whether or not the stuff that you've done has uploaded successfully, whether or not it's been configured successfully, whether or not you have the data you need. And if you click on the down arrow here, it'll tell you if there were any errors, and we can go back and troubleshoot any errors that you're having. And if you want to refresh, you can come up here to the right-hand side and click on this little refresh icon, and that'll update everything for you. So we typically recommend the first time that you're running this, that you come into this little box that says 1 and 2, and that you pull all supporting data and all work list data. And what that'll allow it to do is pull all the back-end information, all the background information, so that you have everything that you need. And once that's done the first time, you can switch these to only pull Delta. And then only pulling Delta means it's only going to pull the differences, and it loads up a lot quicker for you so that you can get it done in 2 or 3 minutes before you go out to the field. You'll notice while it's updating here, I can't change anything in here. I also can't use most of the applications. So if I go to the application list here, oftentimes you'll see this little circle, and this means that data is still loading. So the stuff that I can use, I can see the icons because that data is all loaded, but the stuff that has a circle in it is information that's still being loaded into the system. And once it gets loaded, that icon will show up and I can start using the application. All right, so let's take a look at what's happening in here, which applications are available. So we're going to start with kind of a technician perspective of what a technician can do. So initially, and I do have these in slides just so that you guys can refer back to them if you want to. After this call, we'll provide the slides and everything for you. But I'm going to basically be demonstrating most of it here for you. So in the technician application, you'll notice here on the top right is your person information. So I'll click on this person information and I have a couple of options. So available to assist is checked here. You don't have to check it. What Maximo allows you to do is to use the mobile application to request help. So you can ask other people who are on the application advice on what to do with work orders or that sort of thing. And if I have available to assist on, that means that other people can ask those questions to me. We're not going to go over that assist portion today because we just don't have enough time. So we're just going over all the features that are available here. And if you guys are interested in that available to assist feature, let me know and we can do a session on just that feature. The next thing you'll see here is my default site. So this is my site that I'm entering information in. So some of you guys have multiple sites, And in that case, you would want to select whichever site you're creating records for. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to change my site to whichever site I want to be in. Right now I'm in Madison. The rest of this information you don't really care about that much, except for log out. You might want to log out, but you always have to have that default site set before you go in to be able to work on the work orders. The other thing that you'll need to have set up if you're using this application for receiving and that sort of thing is in Maximo itself, and I'm going to pull up Maximo here for you. If you go to the little profile here on the top right hand corner, you can go to default information and there's an option in here for your storeroom site. That storeroom site will determine where you receive items into and where you're doing all of your inventory transactions. So you'll want to have that set before you start using the mobile application. All right, so now that I'm in here, I'm going to start at the top here. So this little plus icon, this allows you to create a new record. And there are a number of options here. I can create a new work order, and that uses the work order application. It creates it as waiting approval. And if I click that create work order, it's going to walk me through the steps. So I'm going to start here with a description. I can put in a long description here if I want to. Just click this little expander button, and then I can add text here. And again, it's the same as what you would normally see in Maximo, where I can make that bold or colored or italicized or however I want it to show up. Once I'm done with that, I'm going to click this little back arrow to go back. I'm going to save my changes. I can set a priority here. I can set a scheduled start date. I don't have to if I don't want to, but maybe I want to set it for the 8th, so I could set it here. I could tell it how long I think this is going to take. Again, this is not required. You can select work types, so this would be selected from the work types you have available. So I'm going to say this is corrective. I can pick asset and location. Now you'll notice here for asset and location, I don't have a drill down. The drill down is only available here through this service requests. So if you're not using service requests, in order to find that asset and location, I either need to search here and pick the one I want, or I can, if you have barcode scanning and you've printed labels for your assets, you can actually use the scanning feature and you can scan that barcode label. What it does is it just opens up your camera. There's my camera, and then it would scan whatever you have. You would click OK, and then it'll take you back and populate that asset number in here. These guys don't have that enabled yet, so that's why I don't have it. But otherwise, you can just search and then type in whatever you're looking for, same as you would in Maximo. You can also use a scanner from here. Just click on it here and it will scan here for you. All right. Once I'm done with this, I'm going to click save. That's going to save my work order. So again, that blue button on the top right allows you to navigate through. And now you can see here's my work order. The asset's up. This is the information on the asset. If there was a picture, it would show here of that asset. And I can also add from here if I have multiple assets I want to use, or if I have attachments, I can attach them here. I can click plus and either use camera or media and attach a picture. We'll take that blurry picture again. And I would just click this to add it. And it takes the picture. I'm going to click check. Image is saved. And now I'm going to go back. And I'm going to give it a description and a name. And click check. And then it adds the attachment here. And now I can see there's an attachment. And if I go in there, I can look at the picture. I can also add follow-up work here. If there's a related ticket, I can create follow-up work from this if there's work that needs to happen because of this. And then I can go in here and I can start working on it. So you'll notice this says waiting on approval. If I do start working on it, it will probably give me an error. So we'll go to one that's actually active to start working on it. I can, though, put in work logs. So it's not that one. Trying to remember which one the work logs is. Aha, there it is. So it's a little notebook here. I can come over here to work logs and I can just add a comment here. And click the enter key, and that's going to save my logs here. And once it's saved, I can't change it or edit it. I can type in disregard or whatever if it's not accurate, but those logs will carry over through the whole work order process. So that's how you could create a work order. Now, you'll notice if we go back, I'm going to click on the grid down here to go back to my main screen. So if I click plus here, there's two options for work orders. There's create work order and new work order via quick reporting. The difference between these two is when I create a quick reporting work order, it creates it in an in progress status, which means I can start putting labor to it. I can start adding materials, inventory, all that stuff to it right away. If I create this just via a new work order, then it creates it as waiting approval and someone has to go in and approve that. So that's really essentially the only difference. You'll notice everything pretty much looks the same for these, except that it starts it off in a priority one and an EM. I believe you can save this, just select a different, yeah, you can just select a different priority if you need to. And if I go back, it doesn't save that record, it just discards it. So I'm going to go back to my grid here. And I'm going to click plus. So I can also create a service request from here. So if you're using the service request application, you can come in here and create a new service request. You'll notice it says no results found here because I don't have any categories. For some groups, like my group actually, we use Maximo for our service tickets for help desk. We have a bunch of different categories you can select from. In this case, there are no categories. So if there are no categories, you're going to come down here to describe the request. You're just going to put in a description here. This again is the long description if you want to add that. Then you're going to click the next option here. So I can make this high priority or regular priority. If it's me that they need to contact, I can leave it there, or I can choose somebody else if it should be somebody else. I can select my location and asset, and you'll notice in here, this pulls up the drill down. So I can start at the top location, go to the next one, go down to the next one, and kind of drill this down to where I want to be. And then once I get my location set, then it's going to allow me to select my asset from that list. So that drill down works very well in this application, not in the other. I think it's something they might add at a future date. I do know there's an improvement request for that. And hopefully they'll add that at a future date. But if you're wanting to use drill down, you'll want to use the service request. The service address is just if you have a physical GPS location, you can save where you are, so it'll tag that in the system. And then if I have attachments, I can just click plus here and add new attachments. And I'm going to click submit. I can add attachments here. I can add comments here if I have any comments. And then you'll see it's in there as a new ticket for someone to go in and manage. So that's a service request application. The last thing that you're going to see in here, oops, I'm going to go back to my grid, is create an inspection and create an asset. So if you already are using inspection sheets and I create an inspection, then I can go and choose my asset. I can choose the inspection form and I can assign it to somebody. You have to have already created those inspection forms in advance in order to use that feature. But you could start an inspection here just on demand. And that could be anything from an inspection sheet in case something's not working, that you would check certain things and then come back and create a work order off of that inspection. Or it could be rounds and readings. You just check off a round inspection and then you go do your rounds and reading off that inspection sheet off your tablet. So you have some options in here to set up your inspections. And then finally create an asset. And again, not everyone's going to have access to create an asset in here, but you can click plus to create an asset, give it a description. It's going to auto number the asset number here, but you could set it so that you put that value in, and you can always delete that number and put in your own number here if you want to. But you could fill out as much of this information as you want. You can actually take a picture from here if you want to, and then put in failure class and add that, save that into the record. All right, so that's the new records. When a technician comes in, they're not necessarily wanting to create new records, right? We want to use this for technicians to be able to do their work. So technicians are mostly going to be focused on this My Schedule. The materials and tools should give them a list of any materials or tools they need for the day. I don't think any of the ones I have those in there, but if you did have materials or tools that were required for the work orders you were assigned to, those would show up in this list. You could check those out before you went out into the field to do the work. If I go to my schedule, which is what keeps popping up here, this is work that's assigned to me. So this is one of those things where you're going to want a bit of a customization on your application. Out of the box, this application only looks for work orders where I have been assigned. So if you go to the work order application, I'm going to pull it up here for you so you can see what I'm looking at. You'll notice there's an assignments tab, and I know lots of our groups don't use this assignments tab, but this assignments tab, you can actually enter a specific labor or a specific person to do that work. In order for it to show in this field here, out of the box, you have to be assigned as the labor for this assignment. But what we've done in here is we've used object structures and we've changed that query so that it pulls where I'm the laborer, I'm assigned to, or my person group is assigned to it, or I'm the supervisor, or my work group assigned to it, or I'm the owner, or my work group is assigned as owner. So there's a bunch of different options that you have to use. And if you're interested in doing that, you can just send out an email to CMMS. We can give you instructions on how to set that up. But you can see here, these are all of the work orders that I've assigned to, and you'll notice that each of these have a date. So this is due in 3 days, this is overdue 7 days, this one's overdue 7 days. So I can prioritize it by that. I can also view by priority. The other thing is if I don't want to see it by this and I want to see it by some other status, I can click on this little box up here, and this allows me to switch and rotate who I want. So maybe I don't want to use priority anymore, so I'm going to take that off, and I want to sort this by PM number, and I can say whether I want it to be up or down on the list, like alphanumeric or reverse. And you can pull in as many of these as you want to sort it by. You're going to click OK, and then it'll sort the list by that value. So you can also filter here. I only want for a certain asset, or only want where it's a certain status. You could filter the list by that as well. And then this would just refresh your list view. So once I'm ready to start working here, if I click start work, it's going to start a timer. And that timer is going to say, hey, I'm already working on the work. I'm going to start calculating how much time I'm spending. And then at the end of the time, when you stop the work or pause the work, then it's going to create a record for my labor saying that I did the work. And I think if I do this, it's going to throw an error, which is fine. So I would click stop work, and you can see it says I started at 9:30, I ended at 9:30, and I had 0 hours, and I could approve that and put in my hours, and then I could complete it from here if I want to, but I'm not actually done yet. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to continue editing this work order. And you can see I can start work again if I have another work phase. I can always edit the logs by clicking on this. I can see them as well. But if I want to actually start editing this work order or looking at it, then you want to click this little pencil to edit. And now I can go in and I can change things in here. I can edit information in there. I can also go down here to the assets and locations. So if there's more than one, I can see that information here. If I need to go to more than one location, I can see any assignments that are in here. So you can see there's an assignment here that I selected to do, and I can look at that individually. And then I can add attachments here and follow-up work here as well. I can either add a new record, which would create a new work order, or I can see ones that are related to this specific ticket. So that's essentially the application for technicians, so they can go through, finish up their tasks. When they're done with it, then you would go in and change it. Once you finish your work, it would change that status to completed, or you could change it here to completed. And I see all of these because I have security. Technicians wouldn't see as many options, but I'm going to change it to completed, click the blue button. Oh. I don't know why it's requiring me to scan the asset. That must be a feature I put on here. Interesting. But you can go in and complete it from here and put in your logs and all that information. You look here where it says one failed and one blocked. So this will tell you if there are any errors in translating data. And there's an issue here because of the way that my person is set up in here, and that's why it's blocked. But you can go back here and edit those, retry, fix if you have any issues. So it'll tell you if there's any issues with that load. There's an approvals button here. This is not necessarily for technicians. This is for your managers. So you can see work orders to review. These are ones I need to approve. And you'll notice I don't see them even though I created a work order for me to be able to, that needed to be approved. And that's because you have to fill out the supervisor for the people in order for this to show up on work orders to review. I haven't made the change yet to object structures. I think you can make a change to object structures to fix this. But out of the box, Maximo says, unless on your person record in Maximo, I am a direct supervisor of someone, I'll never be able to review and approve these. Only if I'm the direct supervisor can I review and approve them. But I can see all of the closed work orders. So if I come down here to completed work orders or closed work orders, I should be able to see the history of what happened in here and view these records as needed. And you can see when I view these records as a manager, not only do I get to see what they saw, but now I can see how long it took. This is the cost, so it calculates the labor costs, the material costs, all of that is calculated. I can see all of the assignment history and attachments and all of that in here, where this cost doesn't necessarily show for technicians. All right. There it is, grid. Okay. Inspections in here allow you to do an inspection. And if there's one assigned to you, you'll see it in here. If I look at all records, you can see there's one in here that's started. I don't think it's going to let me edit this because it's not my inspection, but we can try. Yeah, it's not going to let me edit it. But you should be able to step through step by step on these inspections that you have in the list. So you can do those separately from the schedule, and you can also do those ad hoc or on demand. So they would show up here if they're tied to a work order that you're assigned to. And if they're just on demand, then you would just click the plus key. And then on assets here, So this allows you to review your assets and look at the assets. My assets would only show ones where you are assigned to the asset. So again, if you go into Maximo here, there are assets, and you'll notice you can associate users and groups, and it must only show when I open the asset. Here it is, associate users and custodians. So you can associate specific individuals to those assets, and then when they go in to here, my assets would be the ones that were associated with them. Typically, we don't associate them. So in this case, you would want to click on search all records, and then you could see all of the records in here. You can see we've added a picture to one of these, so you can see that. And this is the description of each of those assets. Now it's only going to pull a limited number because it's not going to allow you to extract everything from the database. So if you want to see something else, you can filter or you can search for a specific type of record, and then it would only pull the ones that were there. So if we looked, for example, 540, it's going to pull anything that starts with 540 here. Once I have those open, so there are certain people who will be able to edit, so you could take your picture then if you wanted to. You can then go in and add any information, any attachments that you need in here for the specific asset. So it's a nice way to go get those images if you want them. All right, so that is essentially what we're looking at for, I'll get back to where I was. Management and tools, technicians. So technicians would be the create new records, schedule materials and tools, service requests and inspections. And your management is essentially going to be approvals in the assets. So the next thing we're going to look at is inventory applications. And this is the last section here. So there are 3 inventory applications that we are looking at. So inventory counting, receiving, and issues and transfers. And we're really going to start with this in Maximo itself. I know for some of you, we've kind of gone over these new applications, but in Maximo, we always used to use inventory, and then you would do a cycle count against inventory, and we had to try and figure out how that was going to work. So we have a new application called Count Books that shows up with this version. And what Count Books allows you to do is it allows you to do your inventory counts based on a certain number of criteria. So this needs to be set up in Maximo proper first before you can use it in the mobile app. But it can be set up by either this ABC type here. You can do it by count frequency here. There's a new one called count groups here that you can count by. And then you can also count by bin number. You'll notice there's a plus and minus tolerance, and this allows you to set a specific tolerance for this item so that if someone puts in a count that's more or less than that tolerance, they'll get a message saying you're out of tolerance, recount this item, basically. Once we've got everything set up in here, and count groups we usually use if you want to do like a monthly cycle count and you want to count a certain number every month, you can set up those groups initially and then just apply whichever items you want to count for that month. Then you go into the Count Books application and you're going to create a new record. So instead of annual here, what I would normally put is 2025. Because you're going to need to set up a new count book for every year or every time that you're counting. And the reason for that is because there are counts associated with that on these lines, and then there's a reconciliation associated with it on the lines. So what you'll do in count books, you'll create the record, you'll tell it how I want to do the selection. So whether I want it by bin, count frequency, I'll set that up in here. And then I'll put down here what that criteria is and fill out exactly what I'm looking for. So in this case, I was doing everything, so I didn't have to fill out the rest of that. In the second situation I pulled up here, It was just by a certain bin this month. And you can see in here your summary. So this tells me how many I count, how many I selected, how many were actually counted and matched. So we had one that we counted that didn't match what was there, and we've reconciled 3 and we're at 75% accuracy. So that kind of gives you an idea of what you're looking at and where you're at with the percentage. And then once they've been entered, you can go ahead and save this and change the status to approved. And once it's approved or in progress, it'll show up on the mobile application, and people can start putting in those counts. So you can see here the counts that people have put in. This tells you whether or not it matched, and this tells you whether or not it was reconciled. So you can reconcile these one line at a time, or you can reconcile the whole thing by clicking reconcile. You can also unreconcile this, and that reverses any transactions that occurred to reconcile those balances. So it's a lot easier to do these counts with this, and it'll tell you what your accuracy is. Apparently I'm 200% accurate on this one. So once we have the count frequency configured for Maximo, then we're going to come back here and we're going to go to inventory counting and count books and select which one we're doing. So we're going to do the monthly. And now anybody can start counting. So any technician that you have, as long as this is online, it'll show what other technicians have counted. But if you have more than one person going out and counting, you might want to do these counts by person or by bin number so that you assign them out. But when they go through, they can take a look at this part. If there's an image, it would show the image, but then I'm going to just tell how many I counted. So if I counted 10 here, and maybe I counted 1 here, and I counted 5 here. So you're just going to go in and put those numbers. And then once you're done, you click save. And now they just disappear off your list. It says they were counted. It says it's saved. And now I only have the remaining ones. If I want to see what was counted, I can look here on the counted, and this will tell me what's counted. And you'll notice there's a little highlight here if they didn't match. So I can go back and I can recount this one if I need to by just putting in the new number. I recounted, there's really just 8. What Maximo does is it creates a record every time you do that physical count saying, Joe counted it on this date and time and he counted this many. And if it gets counted again, you get another record saying Joe counted it on this next date and time and it had the X many. The reconciliation looks at the latest physical count. So if you counted this at 9 and then you counted again at 11, it's going to take the 11 o'clock count. And then reconciliation has to be done in the application. I can't do it here. But once I've counted everything, I'm just going to click complete. And that closes out this count books for Maximo. And then you can go in and reconcile. So you wouldn't see it anymore in the app, but you could go in and reconcile it in Maximo itself. So you can also scan if you're looking for a specific item. You can scan the barcode here, and then that will allow you to pull up that item in this list. So that is the count books. You do also have the ability to do an ad hoc count. An ad hoc count allows you to select items, specific items to count if you don't want to set up count books specifically, but you want to be able to count inventory. The ad hoc count goes off of the next due date in Maximo, the next physical count due date. And the next physical count due date gets populated off of the cycle count frequency in inventory, and it gets populated in the inventory balances section. So for some of you guys, we might need to update your application to show it, but it's going to go off of this frequency. So whenever your last count was, so this physical count 730, it's going to add this to it, and that's going to be your next count frequency. So some of you guys are going to have this next count date in underneath here, and you'll notice it's editable at any time. So I can go in and change that manually if I want to, but that's what's going to drive your ad hoc count. So it's going to look at everything that is next due. It has a next physical count date on it, and I can go in and count those manually. The ad hoc count doesn't have the same reconciliation capabilities that the actual counting does, but I can go in and count these ad hoc, and then that's just going to save them as not reconciled, and I'll have to go into the inventory application to reconcile those transactions. But this is another way for you to do that if you don't want to set up count books. All right. So the final two are inventory receiving and issues and transfers. So inventory receiving allows you to pull up on the receiving application any records that are showing up on open POs. So if you have any open POs that have inventory that needs to be received, you'll see them in this list. This says none received. So if I want to receive it, I'm just going to click the arrow next to it. I'm going to click receive, and you can see there are 5 items on this PO. And then I would just check the box. So I would make sure I have the bin number correct, how many I received. So I should be getting 6. If I didn't get 6, I can change this and then check the OK box with the ones you want to receive, and then you click save, and that receives your inventory that you have. Now you'll notice this is still going to show up in here because it's partially received. So if I updated this, it would show it was partially received. If it failed, they're blocked because of the one failure that I had. But once I update that, then it should show partially received. So you can partially or fully receive based off of what you're working on. You can also do inspections. So if you have inventory that's marked for an inspection, you could click the inspect here and it would show you which ones need to be inspected. You could do that. You can create assets off of this if they're inventory rotating spares. When you receive, you're going to create that asset. And you can also return this receipt or void this receipt here. Again, I can't do this with, I can only do this with materials and inventory. I cannot do this with services. And then shipment receiving is if you're transferring between 2 separate organizations, you have to use shipment receiving to do that. We don't have any sites that are using this right now, but you could do that as well here in the receiving application. And the final one is issues and transfers. So I can issue an item out through here. I can give this a description, a storeroom. I can select down here an item or a tool, and then I can go ahead and save that. And that will allow me to issue this out against a work order or just issue this out in general. And the same thing with transfer. If I want to transfer it to a different storeroom, I can tell it which storeroom I want to switch it out to or move it from. And then the inventory usage records, there's no records found for some reason, but I could see all of the usage. So if it was issued or returned, I could check and see in here a list of all of those transactions that occurred inside the mobile app. So generally that is the mobile app and all of the features that are available. I will say IBM is putting extensive work into this application. So I do foresee things improving in the future and changing. And we'll try and keep you abreast of those things as much as we can. So you can get a better idea of what's available out there. But this is the application that we're using. I do find it's very helpful. We do have some sites that are already using it. So I'd like to open it up for any questions if anybody has any questions about the app. No questions? All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate taking your time to spend with us, and I look forward to seeing you on our next one on Maximo Inventory presented by Tori Foley.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Megan.